Something has shifted again, and this time the change is impossible to downplay. U.S. military forces have moved into what planners define as a strike zone, and Tehran is now visibly on edge as the distance between preparation and execution continues to collapse. This is no longer about forces moving closer in theory or assets being repositioned as a contingency. This is about proximity that removes buffers, compresses timelines, and forces every decision to be made under pressure. As Donald Trump continues to speak publicly about options, warnings, and deterrence, the operational picture forming across air, sea, and missile domains tells a far more urgent story. Systems are live, forces are aligned, and the margin for error is shrinking by the hour. A strike zone is not a political concept. It is an operational reality. It describes the point at which forces are positioned close enough that they can execute without further major movement. When assets enter a strike zone, they no longer need days or even hours to act. They need authorization. That is why Tehran is on edge now, because once forces are in this zone, intent matters less than capability, and capability is already in place. Over recent days, U.S. military posture has crossed into that territory. Air assets operate from forward positions that allow rapid sortie generation. Naval platforms patrol within overlapping weapons envelopes. Missile-capable systems are positioned to support or initiate strikes without additional staging. Think about what that means. The difference between deterrence and execution is no longer geographic. It is procedural. A decision replaces a deployment. Tehran's response reflects that understanding. Iranian military leadership has elevated readiness across multiple domains simultaneously. Air defense networks operate continuously. Missile forces remain dispersed and mobile. Naval units adjust patrol patterns and readiness levels. Command centers function at extended operational tempo. None of this is designed for public consumption. It is designed to survive the opening phase of a conflict if it comes. Being on edge is not an emotional description. It is a strategic condition. It means leaders must assume the worst while hoping for restraint. It means operators treat every signal as potentially real. It means systems are pushed toward their limits. This condition is inherently unstable because it relies on constant vigilance without release. Over time, vigilance turns into fatigue, and fatigue increases the risk of error. From Tehran's perspective, the most dangerous aspect of U.S. forces entering a strike zone is not the threat of a deliberate attack, but the risk of escalation through interaction. When forces operate this close, encounters become inevitable. Aircraft track each other, naval vessels maneuver in proximity, electronic systems probe and counterprobe. Each interaction carries ambiguity. Ambiguity under stress is how crises accelerate. Iran's leadership has responded with careful messaging. Public statements emphasize concern, warning, and the danger of miscalculation rather than overt threats. This tone is deliberate. It signals fear of escalation rather than desire for it. Tehran understands that once forces are in a strike zone, escalation may not be a choice. It may be a process triggered by events that unfold too quickly to control. At the operational level, Iran's defenses are being optimized for immediacy rather than deterrence alone. Radar coverage focuses on likely approach corridors. Interceptor units are placed to react quickly rather than conserve endurance. Missile launch crews operate under shortened readiness cycles. These adjustments matter because they reflect a belief that warning time may be minimal. Think about the psychology behind that belief. It changes how quickly operators are willing to act. For U.S. planners, moving into a strike zone offers leverage and reassurance. It reassures allies that commitments are real. It deters adversaries by demonstrating readiness. It preserves options if political decisions shift suddenly, but it also commits the United States to a posture that is difficult to unwind quietly. Once forces are this close, pulling them back can be interpreted as hesitation or weakness, even if the intent is de-escalation. The air domain is particularly volatile in this phase. Aircraft operating near contested airspace invite tracking, shadowing, and electronic engagement. Each radar lock or maneuver is analyzed for intent. Defensive actions can appear offensive. Routine patrols can feel like rehearsals. Think about how narrow the line becomes between normal operations and provocation when forces are in a strike zone. Naval forces add another layer of risk. Warships operating in proximity must maintain defensive postures that assume potential hostility. Fire control radars, missile defenses, and close-in weapon systems are ready by default. In such an environment, misinterpretation can cascade quickly. A perceived threat prompts a defensive response which is perceived as aggression, triggering further escalation. Iran's fear is amplified by history. Past confrontations have shown how quickly incidents can spiral once forces are close and alert. Tehran remembers moments when limited exchanges escalated far beyond their original scope. That memory informs its caution now. Being on edge is not weakness. It is recognition of danger, Regionally, the impact is immediate. Neighboring states quietly adjust readiness levels, aware that any conflict would spill across borders. Civil aviation authorities monitor airspace closely. Energy infrastructure operators review contingency plans. Markets respond subtly, pricing in risk, even without dramatic headlines. The strike zone does not exist in isolation. Its effects ripple outward. One of the most dangerous dynamics at play is normalization. As days pass with forces in place and no conflict, the posture begins to feel routine. Operators adapt, leaders grow accustomed, but the underlying risk does not diminish. It accumulates. Fatigue increases, systems remain live. History suggests that prolonged periods of high readiness often end not with deliberate action, but with mistakes. Diplomatic channels remain open, but their influence weakens as military timelines compress. Words take time. Forces in a strike zone do not. Decisions may need to be made faster than messages can travel. That imbalance is what makes this phase so dangerous. It favors action over deliberation. Iran's strategic dilemma is stark. To escalate rhetorically risks justifying action. To remain silent risks appearing passive. To over-prepare risks exhausting forces and increasing error. Tehran's current approach reflects an attempt to balance these pressures, visible readiness paired with restrained messaging. Whether that balance can be maintained depends on events that may be beyond anyone's control. For Washington, the challenge is similar. The strike zone posture provides options, but it also creates pressure to use them. Political leaders must resist the logic that readiness itself creates. Military planners must manage risk while maintaining deterrence. Pilots and operators must perform flawlessly under stress. Think about how much hinges on discipline. As this standoff continues, every movement will be scrutinized. A change in patrol pattern, a shift in alert level, a new radar mode. Each becomes a data point in a narrative of escalation. Analysts debate intent. Commanders debate thresholds. Leaders debate messaging. All while systems remain primed. The greatest danger now is not intent, but interaction. Neither side may want war. Both may believe they are acting defensively. Yet the interaction between forces operating in a strike zone creates conditions where escalation can occur without deliberate choice. This is how many conflicts begin, not with a decision, but with a moment. Tehran's edge is visible in its posture, its messaging, and its preparations. It reflects awareness that the situation has entered a phase where control is fragile. As long as US forces remain in the strike zone and Iranian defenses remain active, stability depends on restraint, professionalism, and luck. The coming days will test all three: one misread signal, one unexpected encounter, one technical failure. Any of these could push the situation beyond the point where warnings matter. And once that happens, escalation will no longer be feared. It will be underway. For now, forces remain in place. Systems stay live. Decisions are deferred but rehearsed. The world watches quietly, knowing that the most dangerous moments often arrive not with noise, but with silence, when everything is ready and nothing has happened yet.